Nobody's ever done this before in a Senna.
This is what I want to
Like,
do
you are the first person on the planet.
Yo, so we pulled up to Infinit Performance. We've got Ayun here, the mad guy that knows everything about it. This garage is where they push McLarens to next levels. That's why my Senna's downstairs. They've also got downstairs 720s, 570s, or bro, I don't even know the whole fleet. There's a whole different variety of McLarens downstairs, all with the same block inside, but the sounds and the way they drive completely different.
Yeah, that's true, man. They do all have the same engine.
Explain what is the purpose of, like, you know, I have a Lamborghini. You've had Lamborghinis.
Yep.
You had the Performante like mine.
Yep.
Okay, it's got, what is it, 5.2 V10?
Yep, it's a 5.2
Then you've got
V10.
SVJ's a V12. There's a bit of different variety.
There's a bit of difference, but you need to remember, with Lamborghini, they share parts with Audis, right?
That's a good point.
So Lamborghini make the gearbox, Audi make the engine, and, you know, they come together to, you know, make one car together. With McLaren, they don't have any friends, right? It's just
true.
McLaren.
It's true.
They can't go to anyone and be like, hey, can I borrow a window switch? Or hey, can I borrow your gearbox?
That
They
actually,
need to
you know
design
what? That's
everything from
probably
ground
the
up.
best explanation that I've ever heard in terms of it, because it's true
There you
when
go.
you deep it, it's true.
Exactly.
But what actually am I paying for, which is okay, so I paid 1.2 for my Senna. Why didn't I just pay for the same price for what's the difference between the 765 or say the 570?
Right, so in the 570, it's a 3.8 litre. The 720, 765 Senna, they're 4 litres.
4 litres, yeah.
Okay. You've got a different crank
Yeah.
and different pistons to change the capacity of the engine, right?
Okay.
So it goes from a 3.8 to 4 litre. The block stays the same. So in the Senna, you've got even better cooling than the 765 and the 720. You've got a lot of trick stuff inside the engine itself. So you know when you take a stock engine and you take it to someone to get built, and they do all this trickery stuff that you probably don't even understand what they're doing, but you just pay the money anyway.
Yeah, basically.
McLaren do that from the factory on the Senna engine. So it is different to a 720 and a 765.
Bring it back into DMO terminology, yeah? So it's basically like having a K20, which is a Honda Civic engine, yeah? That's a stock engine that produces 198 brake horsepower. Then you've got an idiot called DMO that takes that engine, strips it, we build the block, sleeve it, we forge it, we do all the bits and pieces, but instead of DMO doing it, they've done it already.
Exactly.
So that's in terms of the McLaren Senna. So that one's like that, whereas the other ones are just like maybe a different map. So like, for example, if I do a map to K20, I can get it to maybe 250 horsepower. So that separates the difference. And then obviously the aero and the carbon and the weight and all of that goes in towards it. Let's go downstairs because we've got a whole heap of different McLarens down there. Let's talk more action, let's go.
Let's do it.
So you're telling me all of these McLarens in here share the same engine?
Every single one.
This one here?
This one here.
That pink one over there?
Yep.
You're telling me this 720 over here? My Senna? This, what's that? Same car again?
All of them.
This is actually crazy.
Right, I'm going to show you your engine.
Let's have a look.
This is what we pulled out of your Senna. Type in McLaren engine, McLaren gearbox, same gearbox.
That's mental.
Same engine. Every McLaren engine looks like this. You have one difference on the Senna that you can visually see, is this. This Senna manifold.
Yeah, that's what everyone's
This
won.
is an expensive puppy. Equal length runners.
Yes, true.
That's the difference.
And then is also the exhaust manifolds the same or the different?
Exhaust manifold's the same as the 720. It's got a different ignition system to any other McLaren, okay? And it's got different turbos as well. The turbos don't have the blow-off valves on them.
Okay, so it's just kind of like back pressure that comes back out.
Well, the blow-off valves are on the intercooler. So yeah, you know when you let off the throttle and the boost needs to go somewhere, it comes out the blow-off valve.
Okay.
So on the Senna, they come out the intercooler because they wanted more audible noise, all right?
Crazy.
So, you know, these small things, but they make a big difference. The software on the Senna is also completely different to any other McLaren.
Oh, no way.
For the transmission and the engine. So, you know, you get all these downshift bangs and, you know, the upshift bangs.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
So, like, the 720 doesn't really have that, or the
Not as
765?
much, no, nowhere near as much.
Okay.
They made the Senna a lot more dramatic.
I don't think I've ever drove a 720 before, or a 765.
Got one there, we'll take it out. We just wrapped it up last night. It's about 1,000 wheels.
This is why we come here, because everything to do with McLaren is here, in depth, stock, non-stock.
Oh yeah.
Fully built, you name it.
And we got it all.
It's funny because when I went to get my SVJ, it was actually between the 765 LT and the SVJ. I personally wanted the 765. I've always wanted to scratch the McLaren itch.
Badass car, yeah.
But in terms of investment wise, I made 150 grand on my SVJ. Like, over 3 years. You know
Not
what I'm
bad,
saying?
yeah,
You guys know
not
exactly
bad
how
at
much I
all.
drove that car, you know what I mean? So, I mean, the price of the 765s went down, but yeah. So, it was only right that I went and got the Senna as soon as I was like in some hot country.
Such a good car.
It's fucking sick.
Such a good
It's
car.
just different, isn't it?
Yeah,
But
I can't wait to see what it's like with 1300
even
wheel.
me personally, I feel like I'm going to enjoy the car more because I don't do stock and most of my cars are all over 1,000 horsepower minimum.
Bro, nobody's ever done this before in a Senna.
This is what I want to
Like,
do
you are the
first.
first person on the planet to do this.
And everyone keeps saying, a lot of people, because I mean, in the comments are like, oh, someone's done it before. Yeah, on a 720 or 765.
Yeah, it's been done on other chassis,
not
not
on
on a Senna.
McLaren Senna. There's only 500 of these in the world. Less than that, probably 400. So this is where we are. But yeah, I want to go out in that 720.
Let's go.
See what it's like and experience the difference. Same block, different seats.
That's the anti-lag launch control.
Bro, the flames are huge, man. Yo, that was wild, bro.
You don't know the half of the abuse. All my friends are here to take it.
Fucking hell. Fucking hell. Yo, this is sick. Wow! Yo, this is what I need. What? This is what I need. This is what I need.
All the drama on this.
Oh my god. Whoa. Fuck. Yo. Whoa. Bro, honestly feels four-wheel drive. It just grips and dips.
So we have two ECUs here. This is the engine control unit, which every other McLaren has. And this is the electronic ignition system box, which no other McLaren has. The electronic ignition system box is responsible for monitoring the cylinder pressure inside the cylinder between firing cycles. So really, really clever box. Again, no other McLaren has this. McLaren Senna is the only McLaren that has this. And unlike any traditional engine, there's no knock sensors on this engine. So this is a carbon fiber accumulator. Now, you may have heard us talk about accumulators before on the McLarens, specifically the McLaren 720S, but this is a carbon fiber one, and it's like 4 times the size of a regular one. This controls the suspension hydraulic system in the car, and it works alongside the standard accumulators as well to change the ride stiffness. So you have standard accumulators, which you will find on any McLaren, and then you have the carbon fiber accumulators as well to control the ride height stiffness. You will not find this on any other McLaren. This is a McLaren Senna turbocharger. Now, usually on a 4-litre McLaren, you would see an outlet here for a blow-off valve, right? So what happens is when you're on boost and you let off the throttle, it vents the air from here to stop the compressor from stalling. The McLaren Senna doesn't have one on the turbocharger. Instead, they moved it to the intercoolers because they're much closer to the headrest, right? They wanted as much sound coming out of the Senna as possible. And again, this is something that's unique to the McLaren Senna. We're also going to be installing dump valves onto this car to give even more of an effect of the turbo sound. So these are the ion sensing coil packs that we spoke about. These monitor the cylinder pressure using the resistance between the spark plug tips. So this engine doesn't have any knock sensors like a traditional engine. It uses the coil packs or the cylinder pressure levels to see how much pressure is inside the combustion chamber. So this is the Senna intake manifold. What's the difference? Now, it's obviously carbon fiber instead of 650S intake manifold here, and McLaren 720S intake manifold. So you can see the 650S is a taller manifold, the 720S manifold is shorter, and then when you go back to the Senna one is taller again. Why is that? Now on the Senna manifold, so the Senna has a 4-litre engine, the 720S is a 4-litre engine, and the 650S is a 3.8. So what they did was on the 4-litre 720S engine, they noticed that cylinders 1, 5 and 8 were knocking. So they put equal length runners on the McLaren Senna manifold to reduce the tendency of knock. This also improves the volumetric efficiency of the engine with the runners being longer, right? Because the air being funneled into the combustion chamber is tumbled better before it gets to the combustion chamber. So usually when you see upgraded manifolds on cars, you do tend to notice that the runners are generally longer. They're never shorter, because the shorter the runners, the less space the airflow has to tumble correctly. So yeah, the Senna intake manifold makes around 2 or 3% more power than the 720S intake manifold. It's carbon fiber, it's lighter, and it heat soaks a bit less as well than the 720 manifold. Fun fact, the 650S manifold is actually lighter than the Senna manifold. Bet you guys didn't know that. But yeah, the 650S manifold is lighter, 720S is heavier, heaviest of them all, and the Senna comes somewhere in between. The Senna one flows the best out of them all, so you have that. But in regards to lightness, believe it or not, the Senna one is not the lightest. The 650S manifold is the lightest.
Man, I just wanna go flex, gold on my teeth and on my neck. And I'm stone cold with the flex with my squad, and I'm smoking up a check. Man, I just wanna go flex, gold on my teeth and on my neck. And I'm stone cold with the flex with my squad, and I'm smoking up a check. Yeah, push the gas, get them off.
Now, of course, we've been talking about what's different inside the Senna engine. What makes the Senna engine so special? What makes the McLaren Senna so special? Well, these are the camshafts, right? On this side, you have the intake camshaft with the inlet ports here. And on this side, you have the exhaust camshaft with the exhaust ports on this side. Now, the McLaren Senna, obviously, with it being such an expensive car, McLaren went overboard with the R&D of the engine. They put special camshafts into this engine so they flow more at higher RPM. So one of the things we do on our 720 builds and our 765 builds is we take the camshafts from this engine and we put them into the 720s and the 765s. The camshafts make around 5% power, so if you're making 1,000 wheel, they will make an additional 50 wheel horsepower. That's one thing that's different on the Senna camshaft. The exact thing that's different about them, they've not got more lift, because the lift can only be a certain amount on this cylinder head, but they do have more duration and they ramp faster. That means they keep the valve open for longer and they open it faster than a regular 720S or a 765 cam. Once we get the camshaft off, underneath we have something called the DLC coated finger followers, right? So these finger followers are like little fingers that push the exhaust valves and the intake valves down. What they did on the McLaren Senna engine, they actually also do this on the 765 LT, the 600 LT, all of the long tail McLarens. They put a DLC coating onto the finger followers. That reduces the pumping losses inside the engine and reduces wear over time as well. Obviously, when these cars are designed to go round and round and round a racetrack, right? So they wanted to put all of the trick stuff into this engine. But other than that, we're more or less the same. It's the same head studs. It's the same exhaust valves, the same intake valves, the same springs, the same cylinder head. We're now going to pop the cylinder heads off and show you what's underneath the cylinder heads.
So welcome to the room of people who have rooms of people that they loved one day docked away. You love another psychopath sitting next to you. You love another murderer sitting next to you. You think I'd get here sitting next to you. But after all I've said, please don't forget. All my friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know. Please
Kamals went off and pulled the heads off. So once we've got the heads off, obviously the cylinder heads are the same as a 720S with just the change of the finger followers. But underneath the cylinder head, you've got the head gasket. Now, the head gasket on the McLaren Senna and models after that are triple layer instead of double layer. So you see here, this is an MLS head gasket, which on the 720S has 2 layers, but on the Senna, the 765, the 750S, they switched to a triple layer head gasket. So you may be wondering, why did they do this? Now, a double layer head gasket actually seals better than a triple layer head gasket, but a triple layer head gasket allows for there to be more imperfections in the surfaces. So the surface of the cylinder head and the surface of the engine block. So it allows more leeway when things aren't perfect. But if the cylinder head surface was perfect and the engine block surface was perfect, a double layer head gasket would actually seal better. So obviously with McLaren mass producing these engines and not being able to control the tolerances of, you know, whatever they're building, they decided it was a good idea to switch from double layer to triple layer gasket. But that is the only reason why they switched, just to allow a better leeway with the tolerances at the factory. But in an all-out power application, a double layer head gasket does actually seal better. All right, now we're gonna get the crankcase disassembled now. We've obviously got Senna pistons in here, which we use in our other builds. I'm gonna talk a little bit about that. No other changes at all here versus a regular 720S. The sleeves are the same. The engine block is the same. So yeah, we'll tear this open and I'll show you what's inside the crankcase.
We don't deal with outsiders very well. They say newcomers have a certain smell. Yeah, trust issues not to mention. They say they can smell your intentions.
All right, we have all of the parts from the McLaren Senna engine now stripped down. These are all the stock parts of the car. So these are the stock pistons. These are obviously our upgraded connecting rods here. Now, believe it or not, there's not a lot different inside the bottom end of the Senna versus a regular 720S. Other than the Senna piston. On the Senna piston, they DLC coat the wrist pin here, DLC coating a lot of what we've spoken about before. And the ring gaps on the Senna pistons are slightly different. They're not as tight as the 720s. They go looser on tolerance so that the pistons can manage more heat. We've tested these pistons up to around 1400 wheel horsepower and we've not seen any issues yet. I don't expect to see any issues up until we hit 1800 wheel horsepower. So we will be reusing the Senna pistons on the Senna and installing our upgraded connecting rods. The limit for the connecting rods is on pump gas, it's around 800 wheel, and on race gas, it's around 1050 wheel. Past that, you cannot push the stock rods. That's when you need upgraded connecting rods. So these, we've pushed them well past 1300 wheel horsepower and not seen any issues with them yet. They are rated to 1800 wheel horsepower, so hopefully we will hit that in the near future. Other than the pistons, not a lot going on in the bottom end. We even have the engine block here. The engine block of a McLaren Senna is the same engine block they use in a 720S. A 765 LT, all right? There's not a lot going on in the bottom end either. The next stage of this build will be reassembling the engine with our upgraded components. And in the next video, we'll talk a little bit about the upgraded components and why we upgrade them.